Courage for America council member and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. Officer Fanone, I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today. Please tell me your thoughts on this third anniversary.
We are still in the midst of the same fight that began on January 6th, 2021.
This is my video update on this Sunday afternoon, January the 7th. To everyone that is celebrating Christmas on this January 7th, have a wonderful Christmas day. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with an article from the UK Telegraph. Let's walk inside here. So the UK Telegraph, they put out an article with the title, Tired Zelensky looks too weak to achieve victory. With splits emerging in Ukraine, the president must focus on setting up a convincing strategy to defeat Vladimir Putin. Zelensky is looking tired, and he must come up with a strategy to defeat the Putin. So what is the strategy that the Telegraph suggests? Well, in this article, the Telegraph suggests that Zelensky should set up a national unity government to help control the increasingly corrosive domestic dissent that can only weaken Ukraine's war effort. Set up a national unity government. That is the strategy that Zelensky must implement in order to defeat the Putin, because Zelensky has a lot of issues going on in Ukraine on the home front, political issues. And so in order to unite the political divides that are forming and secure more money and weapons so that he could fight the Putin, the Telegraph suggests a national unity government. Who is Zelensky going to unify with? Who? He has banned and imprisoned, and in some cases even deleted, opposition parties. He has canceled all opposition media. Poroshenko despises Zelensky, and he wants power for himself. Tymoshenko, she despises Zelensky, and she wants to seize power. The oligarchs, well, Kolomoisky, his one-time mentor and sponsor, well, we know what Zelensky did to Igor Kolomoisky. So who exactly is Zelensky going to unify with? Zaluzhny? No, Zaluzhny doesn't like Zelensky either. Who can he unify with? Arestovich? Arestovich is gone. And Arestovich, well, he doesn't like Zelensky much either. So a national unity government, Mr. UK Telegraph, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. And even if it were to happen, it would not solve all of Zelensky's problems. Zelensky needs money, soldiers, ammunition. And probably in the reverse order. Ammunition, soldiers, money. That's what Zelensky needs. Ammunition, the collective West can't produce enough. Soldiers, well, Ukraine is on its fourth army. Money. Possibly the one thing that Zelensky could secure is more money. Probably what Zelensky will secure is more money, but we know that most of the money will go to the military industrial complex, will go to the MIC companies in the collective West. A lot of the money will be washed back to collective West elite, political elite. Of course, you have the multinational companies that were promised so much by the Biden White House with regards to Project Ukraine, like BlackRock and Monsanto, which will take their cut of whatever money is given to Ukraine. And of course, we have 10% for the big guy. Never forget 10% for the big guy. So that is the article from the Telegraph. I find it very, very disheartening, very disgusting. Maybe that's a better word. That the collective West, instead of just taking the most rational, logical approach to Project Ukraine, which is capitulation to the Putin, to Russia, and just ending this conflict and saving so many hundreds of thousands of lives, they continue to try and search for anything they can find, any excuse they can make in order to keep this conflict going. A conflict which they have lost. But whatever they need to do to keep this conflict going, spin whatever narrative is necessary in order to continue to keep Ukraine fighting the Russian military. Anyway, we had an article from the New York Times as well, which talked about the Patriot air defense system. The title from the New York Times is Ukraine's Patriot Defenses at Work. Shuddering booms and bursts of light. The American-provided air defense systems have helped Ukraine defend itself against Russian assaults, but Washington has warned that it will not be able to keep them supplied for much longer. So this article from the New York Times, which is getting a lot of attention, is mainly an advertisement for the military-industrial complex. I would say that nine-tenths of this article is all about the amazing wonder weapon that is known as the Patriot air defense system. And then one-tenth of this article reveals that the Pentagon may not be able to supply Patriot missiles to Ukraine any longer. And this is going to be a big problem for the Ukraine military. This is what the New York Times says. But the White House and Pentagon officials have warned that the United States will soon be unable to keep Ukraine's Patriot batteries supplied with interceptor missiles, which can cost $2 million to $4 million apiece. Since the start of the war in February 2022, Russia has directed more than 3,800 drones and 7,400 missiles at Ukrainian towns and cities. At the same time, Ukraine has become a testing ground for an array of air defense systems, according to the Ukrainian military. So throughout this whole article, the main point that we can take out of this New York Times article related to the actual conflict, like the trajectory of the conflict, is that the collective West is just running out of Patriot missiles. They cost a whole lot of money. They can't make them fast enough, and the Russians, they are depleting Ukraine's air defenses. That's the main point, at least with regards to analyzing this conflict, that we can take away from this New York Times article. The rest of the article is an advertisement as to how awesome the Patriot missile defense system is. And actually, in this article, they tell a very interesting story. They spin a very interesting narrative about how awesome the Patriot systems are. And they talk about Major Volodymyr. And Major Volodymyr, he was trained on the Soviet S-200, S-300, and Buk missile systems. And so the United States and the collective West, they snapped up Major Volodymyr, and he was going to be part of the Patriot air defense team. And so they sent, according to the New York Times, they sent Major Volodymyr to Oklahoma, where he took part in a 10-week training course for the Patriot air defense system. And then he did 2 weeks in Poland. And when he returned to Ukraine, just days actually, upon his return to Ukraine, on May 4th, now get this is the good part of the story. On May 4th, Russian forces, this is Volodymyr, Major Volodymyr has now just finished his 12-week training. He just arrives back to Ukraine, like he just gets off the plane or the train, and he's back in Ukraine. And on May 4th, Russian forces fired a hypersonic missile at Kiev. And although President Putin had deemed the weapon unbeatable, a Patriot interceptor shot it down. It was quite unexpected, Major Volodymyr said. We had just arrived from training and did not fully understand what exactly we had destroyed. Later, when we found out, our confidence in the equipment that our partners provided us grew, Major Volodymyr said. Yep, that's how awesome the Patriot systems are. All it takes is 12 weeks. 12 weeks of training, and you too could be shooting down hypersonic missiles. It's that simple. It's that simple. Major Volodymyr, the story of Major Volodymyr, the man who shot down the Kinzhals hypersonic missile. His first day back, his first day back from training, from a 12-week training course, and he's shooting down hypersonic missiles, man. He can't even believe it. He can't even believe the awesomeness of the Patriot system. Oh, man. So let's, this is an advertisement for the MIC. And now we're going to have a whole bunch of EU countries calling up the Pentagon and saying, I got to get my hands on a Patriot system. How much does that thing cost? And that's the purpose of this article. So we have some interesting news coming out of the EU. Now, this is good. I really like this story. It looks like Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, he's the sidekick to Ursula von der Crazy, Mr. Michel. It looks like he is going to resign from his post as European Council president in order to run for EU elections. And this has created panic in the halls of Brussels because, now get this, if this is true and Michel is going to run for EU Parliament and he's going to resign from his post as the Council president, and if the EU is not able to find a suitable replacement for Michel, then, this is the good part, this is the good part, then the country that assumes the EU presidency, the rotating EU presidency, will most likely take over the position of Charles Michel. Take a wild guess which country is going to assume the rotating presidency for the EU and will take over Charles Michel's position if the EU cannot find a replacement. Fast. Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess. This story's so good. Yep. Hungary. Viktor Orban. Oh, please. Please, God. Please, God, let Viktor Orban take over the presidency of the European Council. So, like, everyone's panicking, right? In the EU's, everyone is panicking. And so, here's my take on this story. Okay, first of all, I think the EU will find someone. I think the EU will, go out onto the streets of Brussels and they'll just pull up someone from the streets of Brussels or at some cafe. They'll be like, hey, you, You look like you could be a good European Council president. What's your name? My name is Stephen. Okay, Stephen, come here. Come here. Here's a contract. Sign the contract. Here's your backstory, and you're the European Council president. Just do whatever we tell you to do, Stephen. Guy's like, okay, sure. They'll find someone. They will find someone. But if they don't, Orban gets the job. But so I think they'll find someone because Orban being the council president, I think it would lead to an emotional breakdown of just about every EU member state, with the exception of Slovakia. Fico would be laughing. Fico would be like, yeah, yeah, baby. Orban and Fico would be high-fiving each other. Like, yeah, we're in control now. Oh, man. But look, Michel is retiring, or he wants to run for the EU Parliament, so he has to resign from his position. That's a bunch of bollocks. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. What do I know? But my first guess is that this is a bunch of bollocks. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm at a church. I shouldn't say that. But, man. No way. No way. Michel, Michel, he wants out. Actually, Michel's a pretty smart cookie. I think that he sees the writing on the wall. He sees that that Project Ukraine is finito, and he wants out. He's saying, I don't want to be the one sitting in the council presidency seat when this thing comes crashing down. So I'll run for parliament, do something like that. That's a nice excuse, and I'll let someone else take over. Not a bad move from Michel. Anyway, that's the story. That's what Politico is reporting. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. And now let's go to the Middle East, where Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, he is on his tour of the Middle East. He was in Turkey the other day. He was in Greece yesterday and met with Prime Minister Mitsotakis. And now he is off to a whole bunch of countries. He is going to visit Arab states, Israel, and the occupied West Bank. And according to The Guardian, Blinken is going to be looking at what can be done to maximize the protection of civilians in Gaza and increase deliveries of humanitarian assistance. And this is a quote from Blinken. Far too many Palestinians have been killed, especially children. Blinken said, we want to make sure that countries are using their relationships with some of the actors that might be involved to keep a lid on things, to make sure that we're not seeing the spread of conflict. Interesting choice of words from Blinken, huh? We want to keep a lid on things. Code for let's not have this conflict spoil Biden's 2024 election. Let's keep a lid on this. Let's just keep a lid on all of this bombing of civilians and everything horrible that's happening to Gaza. Let's just keep a lid on it. What a terrible thing for Blinken to say, man. What an inappropriate use of words from Blinken. He's trying to figure out how to make sure the conflict doesn't spread. So he's going to be talking to all these leaders in the Middle East, and they're going to try to figure out how to not make the conflict spread. I've got an idea. I'm just spitballing now. I'm just spitballing, everybody. But how about a ceasefire? There you go. You want to make sure the conflict doesn't spread? Ceasefire. Indefinite ceasefire. And a return to some sort of negotiation dialogue in order to find a solution. I'm just saying stuff off the top of my head. I understand that Blinken, he's the professional diplomat, and he's the one with all the experience. And he's going to be traveling around to all of these countries trying to find a solution to keep a lid on this thing and to make sure the war doesn't widen out. But I mean, it seems like a ceasefire would do the trick, which to me signals that that they're not interested in a ceasefire, or they're unable to get a ceasefire, like politically unable. I mean, if they really wanted a ceasefire, they would get a ceasefire, but politically, the Biden White House, it's boxed itself in with regards to this conflict. It's made a mess of things, and they just can't bring themselves. They don't have the political will or the political capital in order to push for a ceasefire. And so now Blinken is running around trying to find a way to keep a lid on this thing so that it doesn't damage Biden's 2024 run. And mark my words, Blinken, when he returns to the United States, when he's finished from his tour of the region of the Middle East, things are just going to get worse. Blinken's not going to solve anything. He's just going to make things worse. That would be my guess. Yesterday, Hezbollah, they launched, according to various reports, 60 plus rockets into Israel. Hezbollah on Saturday initiated what it announced as an initial response to Israel's assassination by drones of Hamas deputy chief Salah al-Aruri, which happened in the south of Beirut neighborhood last week. The Lebanese paramilitary group, backed by Iran, unleashed large salvos of missiles that bombarded military bases as well as communities in northern Israel, many of which have long been evacuated, triggering alert sirens among some 90 towns and settlements. The Hezbollah statement declared that the assault was part of the initial response to the crime of assassinating the great leader Sheikh Salah al-Aruri. So how is Blinken going to put a lid on this thing when everything is pulling the entire region into a wider conflict, including the actions of the Biden White House? How is Blinken going to make things better without actually insisting on a ceasefire? How is he going to pull that trick off? I don't know. I'm interested to find out. Iraq, they announced that they want to kick the U.S. out of Iraq, kick all of the collective West foreign troops out of Iraq. Baghdad has accused Washington of breaching its sovereignty with yet another summary assassination. So they assassinated the United States. They took out a high-level military official or someone connected to the military of Iraq, and this was just too much for the Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, and he promised that he's going to launch a process to expel the international coalition forces from the country. It was a U.S. airstrike that killed a high-ranking militia commander in Baghdad 4 years after the assassination of Soleimani. The U.S. airstrike hit the headquarters of the Popular Mobilization Forces, an Iraqi state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of dozens of armed factions on Thursday. At least 2 people were killed in the attack, including Mushtaq Taleb al-Saidi, the leader of Harakat Hezbollah al-Nujaba, HHN, which Washington has listed as a terrorist group allegedly backed by Iran. The problem is that the Popular Mobilization Forces are actually connected to the Iraqi military. They actually have a connection to the Iraqi military, and so this has now pushed the Iraqi Prime Minister to try to begin the process of expelling the international forces in his country. The United States is getting pushed out of the Middle East. With each passing day, the United States is getting pushed out of the Middle East, isolated and pushed out. So, yesterday I talked about the revelation that the Pentagon chief, Darth Vader himself, Lloyd Austin, had undergone a surgery, and there were complications with that surgery, which forced Lloyd Austin to stay in the hospital longer than expected. And this story came out just the other day, even though this operation took place like 4 or 5 days ago. And that was an interesting revelation. The fact that no one knew the Pentagon chief was in the hospital, and that there were some complications with this surgery, and we still don't know exactly what was this surgery that has forced Lloyd Austin to remain in the hospital for an extended period. But now we are getting reports. Now get this. We are now getting reports that not even the White House knew of Lloyd Austin's hospital stay. Not even the White House. This is coming from the BBC. White House not told for days. Defense Secretary in hospital. Dude, what? What is going on in the Biden White House? Your defense secretary is in the hospital, not for a day, not in and out, but for 4, 5, 6 days. Complications with the surgery that took place, and the White House had no idea. This is the man that's essentially, effectively in charge of the entire U.S. military. I believe right below Bidenopolis, who is the commander-in-chief. But wow, you did not know, the Biden White House, you guys did not know that your defense secretary was in the hospital because of complications with a surgery? Incredible stuff. Here's what the BBC is reporting. The Biden administration was not told for days that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had been hospitalized. At least one official has told U.S. media. Mr. Austin, 70, was admitted to Walter Reed Medical Center on Monday due to complications following surgery. An official told the BBC's U.S. partner CBS that the White House was not informed of this until at least Thursday morning. Mr. Austin has accepted responsibility for the lack of communication. I recognized I could have done a better job ensuring the public was appropriately informed, he said in a statement. I commit to doing better. Dude. I want to say the what a bunch of B word, but once again, I'm out of church, and I already messed up once, but by saying the B word. Twice, I think I said the B word, but what a bunch of... Come on now. You're telling me that Lloyd Austin doesn't have a personal assistant, a secretary, a staff of like 2-3 dozen people to make one phone call, one text message to the Biden White House and say, Lloyd Austin, he went in for surgery today. And by the way, Lloyd Austin went in for surgery today, and now there are complications with his surgery. Everything's going to be okay, but Lloyd Austin has to stay in the hospital for a couple more days. You're telling me there was not one person in the entire Pentagon. Have you guys seen how big the Pentagon is? Pentagon's massive. It employs thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You're telling me there was not one person to contact the Biden White House? Are you telling me that Biden and his team, they got together in a meeting over the last week or two? Let's just say they had a meeting of like top officials over the last week or two, because I don't know, there's all kinds of problems going on in the world. Just saying, just saying, you have a whole lot of problems going on in the world. So maybe you might have had a meeting, within the last week or two. and Lloyd Austin's seat was empty, and not one person like at the table said, "Hey Jake, where's Austin? I don't know, Anthony. He's been missing for a couple of days. I don't know. Oh, Lloyd always does that, you know. He disappears every now and then, you know. Oh, that's Lloyd. That's Lloyd, you know. He's always missing our meetings. He's just in charge of the entire military, in charge of hundreds and thousands of nuclear weapons. Don't worry, he'll show up. He'll show up in a couple of days. Unfreaking believable. What a story that is. Anyway, Bloomberg, they put out a story, since we're talking about military superpowers. Bloomberg, they put out a story saying that U.S. intelligence claims that the purge of Chinese military officials is due to flawed Chinese missiles. That's what led Xi to fire, I think, about a dozen or a half dozen military officials. According to Bloomberg, U.S. intelligence shows flawed China missiles led Xi to purge army, China missiles filled with water, not fuel. According to U.S. intelligence, Xi is seeking to root out corruption and prepare military for combat. All right, so what do you guys think? Is this true, or is this nonsense? Is this propaganda? The missiles were filled with water. Oh boy, is this sounding like all the stories about the incompetent Russian military, right? It seems like they're just rehashing all of these stories again, just with a different flavor, right? The Russian military is incompetent, and they're drinking vodka, and they're passed out. Now you have Chinese missiles are filled with water, not fuel, right? Maybe it's true. Most likely it's not. Coming from U.S. intelligence, I don't know. I don't trust this story. What do you guys think? True or not true? Maybe the Chinese, they need some of those Russian washing machine chips. If they just had those Russian washing machine chips, then their missiles would be would be the best in the world, and no problem. You know, the washing machine chips, once you install one of those in a missile, those Russian washing machine chips, the missile can run on anything: fuel, water, Coca-Cola, 7-Up. It doesn't matter. That's how awesome the washing machine chips are. If they only had those washing machine chips. And someone else who could have used the Russian washing machine chips in his airplane is none other than Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. So Trudeau, he was traveling on holiday to Jamaica, I believe, is where Trudeau took a holiday. Trudeau says that he's paying for this holiday out of his pocket, and the taxpayer of Canada is not paying for this holiday, because Trudeau, he's had various scandals where he's taken holidays on the taxpayer dime. But Trudeau went to Jamaica on a holiday, and he tried to return to Canada, and his plane broke down. According to the BBC, Canada PM Justin Trudeau's official plane breaks down again. Again. You need those Russian washing machine chips, Justin. That's what you need, my man. Get some of those washing machine chips, and that plane can fly for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. So here's what the BBC says. Mr. Trudeau has suffered a string of travel mishaps in recent years. In September, his departure from Delhi following a G20 summit was embarrassingly delayed after his plane encountered an unspecified mechanical problem. During his re-election campaign in 2019, a bus carrying journalists collided with the wing of an aircraft chartered by Mr. Trudeau's Liberal Party. Later that year, he was forced to use a backup plane to attend the NATO summit in London after the original had been damaged in a hangar accident. But a problem was discovered with the backup aircraft, and the Prime Minister had to use a third one to return home. It's a lot of travel problems right there. A whole lot of travel problems. Coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think so. It seems like Trudeau may be experiencing an Zelensky travel curse. Maybe he's not getting the full dose of the Zelensky curse, the political Zelensky curse, but maybe he's experiencing an Zelensky travel curse. Anyway, that is Trudeau. Stuck in Jamaica. Actually, I think now he's returned back to Canada. Sorry, Canada. I think he returned home. But that's Trudeau. Another plane breakdown. So that is the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. Hit that like, subscribe to this channel if you want. Take care. Merry Christmas.